Welcome Japanese woodblock print collectors and enthusiasts. I thought it would be fun to do a countdown of my top 5 scary woodblock prints. Scariness is subjective, of course. What's scary to me is not necessarily scary to someone else. Scary images often tap into our imagination. They can generate a sense of suspense and psychological unease, which can linger in our minds even after the image is no longer present. Gory or bloody images, on the other hand, can be unsettling or disturbing, but they are not necessarily scary. For example, here are some prints from the master of blood, Yoshitoshi, from Yoshitoshi's 1866 series, 28 Famous Murders with Verse. This is Naosuke Gonbei ripping off the face of his enemy. Gory yes, scary no. The same with this one from Yoshitoshi's biographies of modern men, of Seiriki Tamigoro shooting himself with a rifle. Disturbing yes, scary not really. For my top 5, I also wanted to separate the more cartoony scare from the psychological one. For example, Yoshitoshi did an extremely popular series called New Forms of 36 Ghosts. If we look at these examples, I wouldn't consider them scary, more amusing. This is the heavy basket with all of the monsters coming out of the basket. And this is the one of the wrestler Onogawa Kisaburo blowing smoke at a one-eyed monster. Not scary in my book, more comical. So with those thoughts in mind, let's start with my number 5 on the list and work our way up to number 1. Coming in at number 5 is a print from Kuniyoshi called Umibozu, or Sea Priest, from the series 53 Parallels for the Tokaido Road. Little is known of the origin of Umibozu, but it has been seen multiple times throughout Japan. Umibozu appears to sailors on calm seas which quickly turn stormy. It either breaks the ship or demands a bucket or barrel from the sailors and then proceeds to drown them. You might think the scene is a bit cartoony, but I disagree. The blob-like shape looming out of the stormy waves in front of the boat with 2 hollow eyes is quite scary. Next on my list is a print by Kunichika from his 36 Good and Evil Beauties. This is the Vampire Cat of Nabeshima. It's the story of Prince Nabeshima and his beautiful mistress Otoyo, who we see here. One night a vampire cat kills Otoyo and assumes her form. In the shape of Otoyo, the cat drains the life of the prince every night until a guard discovers her changing into a cat. She escapes to the countryside and continues to attack people, and then Prince Nabeshima organizes a hunt and the vampire is eventually killed. Do you see the cat yet? In the print, the shadow she casts on the green screen is that of the cat's body and head. Number 3 on the scary list are a couple of prints by Kunisada relating to the tragic story of Ishikawa Goemon being boiled alive. Goemon was a legendary Japanese bandit who stole gold and other valuables to give them to the poor. He and his son were boiled alive in public after their failed assassination attempt on the local warlord. Now, there are several versions of the story, but they all end badly. In one, he was sentenced to death by being boiled alive in an iron cauldron along with his young son. But he was able to save his son by holding him above his head. His son was then forgiven. In another version, Goemon was boiled alive along with his whole family. Goemon at first tried to save his son by holding him high above, but suddenly plunged him deep into the bottom of the cauldron to kill him as quickly as possible. Then he stood with the body of the boy held high in the air in defiance of his enemies, until he eventually succumbed to pain and injuries and sank into the pot. I think that anyone with children can relate to the horror of this print. Now, number 2 on my list is a print that many artists have depicted, but I think Yoshitoshi did it best in this image of the picture of the lonely house on Adachi Moor, published in 1885. Here you can see he uses the tall diptych or 2-panel print format to the greatest advantage. We can see the captured pregnant woman hanging by her feet, gravity pulling down her belly and long hair. Below her, the smoke is rising from the fire, and the evil hag stares into her eyes as she sharpens her blade. The anticipation of what's to come is maddening. And coming in at number 1, the scariest print for me is The Laughing Demoness from the series 100 Ghost Stories, or Hyaku Monogatari, by Hokusai. He created this series in 1830 when he was 70 years old, and there are only 5 prints in this series, although they initially planned to make 100. In this print, we see the demoness looking through a round opening, holding a severed child's head and just smiling at us. It's not what I'd call a friendly smile, and that's what makes it so scary. I am reminded of a recent horror movie called Smile. Can you see the similarities? Imagine having this print at the end of a long, dark hallway you have to walk down. So, what do you think? Scary enough? Or do you have a favorite I missed? Let me know. Please sleep tight, like and subscribe, and happy collecting.